Welcome to the Swing Left Nebraska podcast that's all about energizing communities, advocating for change, and making a difference in the great state of Nebraska. We'll dive deep into the heart of Nebraska's progressive movement, exploring the stories, strategies, and initiatives that are shaping the political landscape. We're here to amplify the voices of candidates, local activists, and community leaders who are fighting for a more equitable, inclusive, and prosperous Nebraska. Swing Left Nebraska is your go-to resource for staying informed about key issues, upcoming elections, and how you can get involved. Whether you're a seasoned organizer, a concerned citizen, or someone who's looking to make a difference for the first time, we've got you covered. Get ready to be inspired, and let's embark on this incredible journey together. Hello, welcome, old and new friends, to this quick episode. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to discover all the happenings in the legislature. Cindy Maxwell-Ostdiek is back to help us unpack the unicameral. So let's do a show. All right, Cindy, welcome back to the Swing Left Nebraska podcast. Just so everybody knows, we are recording this on Thursday, March 14th. There is one more day of session tomorrow, so we won't have that information for you in this episode. But let's start off in the beginning of the week. Starting on Tuesday, the governor signed off on transgender youth health care ban. What a disgrace. Oh my goodness. What can you say about that?
I really appreciate talking with you today. And I know it's really quick this time, talking since the last time we visited, but it's been so discouraging to see some of the things that have happened in the meantime. And one of them was that the governor did sign off on those healthcare bans for transgender youth here in Nebraska. I think that the court will be continuing to look at this. I just want to put a word out to anyone who might be listening and feeling any discouragement about this. I see you, I see your family, and I know there are so many of us that are supporting our neighbors through this. So I hope that we can focus on making sure that the implementation of this is education, that we get that information out there, but that we also focus on electing better representatives so that we can turn this around in the future.
Absolutely. I agree. Governor Pillen last week vetoed Omaha State Senator Megan Hunt's legislative bill 307, which would have authorized localities to adopt syringe service programs or SSPs. On Tuesday, lawmakers failed 27 to 20 to override the veto, falling 3 votes short. What can you say about that?
Just absolutely disgraceful. This was good policy, and it actually really focused on local control, and the political process with this veto and not overriding it is just another sign that the senators are really eroding their own authority as an equal branch of government with the governor. And there are 7 senators that voted for this legislation that at the last minute did not override the veto. And Senator Frederickson, and in the news, they've been really highlighting who those senators are. If any of these are your senators, I would call them and let them know that you really want them to focus on public health and policy that's good for our state, and making sure that we're not kowtowing to the governor for purely petty personal or political reasons. And that's Senator Christy Armendariz here in Omaha, Senator Bossen in Lincoln, who is up for election, Senator Brewer in Gordon, he's term limited, Senator Holcroft in Bellevue, who was recently elected, Senator Jana Hughes, recently elected in Seward, Senator Fred Meyer, who was appointed by Governor Pillen, he's from St. Paul, and he is not going to be seeking election, and then Senator Mike Mosher of Columbus. There were senators that did vote to override the governor, and my senator is one of them. And I did see him, Senator Brad Von Giller, and I saw him at the Capitol the other day, and I did tell him thank you. I think that one of the things that we should be doing is calling our senators that did stand for the authority and the independence of the legislature and make sure and say thanks.
Yes, I agree. It's important to use our voice to push back against harmful legislation and harmful bills, but It's a good reminder that it's also important to reach out to your senator if they do something good and commend them and praise them for the good work that they're doing. So that's great that you were able to have that exchange.
And that day, it was such an amazing rally in the rotunda on Tuesday afternoon. And it was really to call attention to the fact that with our budget process, which has started this week, with the bills in front of the legislature, we are not taking care with our responsibilities and commitments for developmental disability. There were other areas as well, but this specifically was calling on the legislature to make sure that we're paying living wage for the people that are supporting our neighbors. And these are people that they've had so many of these service providers that have actually said they just cannot continue because they're not receiving the reimbursements and payments that are really just basic and adequate. So I hope that during this budget process, they can see their way clear to make sure that we're following through on the commitment that we have made to our neighbors, especially developmentally disabled and their families.
Yes, we spoke about this offline about how the Arc of Nebraska actually threw a rally in the Rotunda on Tuesday.
Yes. And then the senators talked about this during debate this week regarding the budget. And in the rotunda at the rally, Senator Vargas was there, Senator Conrad, Senator Ben Hansen, and Senator Dorn. I saw all of them there. I'm not sure who else. I was off to the side, so I couldn't see everybody. But I should appreciated that they stood shoulder to shoulder with these families, and hopefully we'll be able to find the resources in our budget to make sure that we're taking care for these families.
Yes, I agree. That is fantastic. Moving on to LB 1412 was brought at the request of the governor, and that was to provide change and eliminate appropriations for operation of state government, post secondary education, state aid, capital construction, and federal funds allocated to the state of Nebraska from the Federal American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. And then the debate continued on that with Senator Michaela Kavanaugh filing IPP and other blocking motions. What can you say about that?
It's amazing that we've had such detailed debate about in the budget. And I really recommend if you have any time to go to the Nebraska Legislature Legislative Study Group YouTube page and kind of just check in on the recordings from the floor debate. There were many areas where it was shocking to discover there were actual cuts to the dollars. For example, even behavioral health. And we have a mental health crisis happening in our state. And it became apparent that some of the money that had been appropriated in the past had not been spent yet by, say, HHS. Their programs are beginning slow off the ground. And it doesn't mean, though, that money isn't to be still focused on behavioral and mental health. Like Senator Frederickson has been bringing that up, Senator Walls. I really appreciated Senator Walls also discussing the long range budget planning report from the fiscal office at the end of 2023. She was sharing that report and the chart that I've really focused on for the last month or two. That's on page 7 of that report, and it's found on the Nebraska Legislature website. And it discusses how, even with assuming healthy growth, we're going to be running into structural imbalance for the next 8 years. It's really eye opening and concerning. And basically, what this report kind of shows is that for example, income tax cuts passed last year for the top brackets, they're being phased in over time. And it is going to be difficult for the Nebraska legislature to balance the budget. That's why they've been sweeping through so many of these accounts to try to find little pockets of money that are available to try to artificially prop up our budget so that they can pass this kind of really nebulous idea that they have regarding property tax relief. And this discussion really focused on that bill as well as the one today, which was regarding the cash transfers from these funds. They started that discussion the other day and continued it. And I think it was really good to talk about our priorities as a state and where we really want to put our money where our mouth is. Do we want to take care of our neighbors, or do we want to take money out of assistance to the poor? Do we want to put money towards middle income and rural urban housing issues, as well as childcare issues in our state, which are real crisis? And all of these really play into the long term investments we're making so that we can bring business to our state and continue to grow. I was really pleased to hear all of the discussion, and they did pass both of these bills to the next stage of debate, but it sounds like there's going to be a lot of negotiation going on in the background to try to fix some of these issues. Because, for example, the $70 million from the Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund is not proper. It sounds like it's potentially legal. The federal restrictions for the state fund are not as restrictive, but it's not what we should be doing, sweeping through those dollars that were specifically taken from payroll taxes. Small business owners and others through the chambers were in contact with the senators and saying, no, don't do this. This is not what we want you to take from these funds. So hopefully they can get some things worked out. And the next time this comes back up, which will be very soon because we're down to the last few days of the session and the budget needs to be addressed. So please be in touch with your senator and let them know your overarching priorities and that we want to make sure that they're not artificially trying to balance the budget on the backs of our struggling neighbors and working families.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I know you're going to be out of town, so we'll be hearing this Sunday after Friday's developments have already happened. So it'll be interesting to see next week what kind of comes at the next stage of debate. I did read an article about the revenue packages that are starting to make their way through and then will be delivered to the floor soon. One of the revenue packages included tax cuts for a bill Senator Albrecht brought last year that is tax credits for crisis pregnancy centers. Those crisis pregnancy centers are not rooted in science. And so we should not be diverting precious tax resources to organizations that are giving mis and disinformation to pregnant people who they need real health care, not to be dissuaded from whatever kind of health care they need. So hopefully they will not be moving forward with that.
Hopefully, they will not be moving forward with that. Could not agree more with you. Do you have any final words for the people as we wrap up this episode, Cindy?
One of the things I keep my eye on is the upcoming election, and the actual dates are coming fast for vote by mail. People will be starting to do early voting next month. So please take time to look into your ballot, and you can find that at the Nebraska Secretary of State website for voter check. And I just feel like it's really important that you reach out to talk with who's running to represent you, see if there'll be have good ideas for your family, your loved ones, your business, and really decide who you'd like to support. If you have a legislative candidate in your district, great. If you're in an even number district like me, I'm working to try to help support good candidates for the odd districts. And the time is now. Please spend some time, get on the phone, help write postcards. Really going door to door would be amazing. And let's try to get some good people through this primary so that in November we have excellent candidates to choose from.
Yes. And if you need some help on how to get started, I will be completely partisan here and say you can reach out to the Nebraska Democratic State Party and they can get you postcards. You can also reach out to Women Who Run, they can get you postcards. Both organizations can help you get connected with the candidates and give you some tasks to do for them. And I will leave those links for you in the show notes. The other thing I wanted to plug is they are really looking for poll workers and people to be available to help day of election coming up, like you said, just around the corner, the May primary. And you can go to your election commission website. So, whatever county you're in, just put in your county and election commission into Google, and you should see a place where you can sign up to be an election worker. I'm signed up to do it. I'm really excited. I've done it the last few years. I know they're having some pretty extensive trainings because of the new voter ID. So I would suggest that you get linked up with that as soon as possible. You do also get a little money for your time, not a lot, but it is some money. But your employer is required to let you off work. It works like jury duty if you do sign up to volunteer to do that.
Oh, that's great. I think that's an amazing idea. I admire you for taking that step and really helping us with our democracy. That's great.
It's fun. Yeah, it's a good time. Sydney, thank you so much. Speaking of time, going down to Lincoln, listening, being good eyes and ears for us, bringing back this information. And bringing it back to the listeners and so that we can really take it in, process it, and understand what's going on so that we can engage better with our community and with our representatives. So thank you so much for doing that. We really appreciate it, and we'll catch you next week.
Thanks.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Swing Left Nebraska podcast. We want to thank our listeners for tuning in and engaging with us. Remember, every conversation, every vote, and every act of activism counts as we work together to bring progressive change to our state. Don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss an episode. And share the show with your pals. Until next time, let's mobilize. Let's take action. Let's go.
Ready, set, go. Get ready to go.